From exploding vehicles to actors hanging onto skyscrapers, the Fast and Furious franchise is known for some insane moments. But here's something you might not have seen coming. Fast 5 had to rewrite its script due to an on-set accident. You know what they say, the show must go on. And that's exactly what happened when a stunt went off course during the shooting of Fast 5. In an exclusive interview with Screen Rant, director Brian Volk Weiss lifts the veil on the creation of one of the film's standout scenes.
My point of view on the movie, because I was so young, I basically thought it's what you and I would consider to be a documentary. So I'm very lucky, like I never had to figure out what I wanted to do.
That's cool. My favorite toy thing.
I would love to do that. That's also if we get like a season 6 or 7.
During the train heist sequence, a car that was supposed to glide alongside a speeding train ended up crashing into it. Instead of scrapping the shot and starting over, the production team worked their magic, seamlessly incorporating the crash into the scene. And let me tell you, the result is nothing short of spectacular. As a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, I was honestly blown away by this behind-the-scenes story. It just goes to show that sometimes the unexpected can lead to some of the most memorable moments on screen. In fact, the risks Fast and Furious takes help make it an iconic franchise. It's easy to forget in the midst of all the high-octane, futuristic stunts, but the franchise got its start with good old-fashioned practical thrills. That's right, no green screens or CGI here, just death-defying stunts and bold creative decisions that set the franchise apart. From driving a Honda Civic under a speeding semi to sending a car to space, each Fast and Furious film raises the bar in its own way. And according to Brian Volk Weiss, it's this willingness to embrace the risk that has been the key to the franchise's success.
So, you know, as you may know, we do a lot of comedy specials. So, you know, we're working with a lot of different companies. We get a lot of interest from agents and managers and lawyers for a lot of comedians that are, you know, basically, there used to be a lot of shows where someone could do 6 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever. There really isn't something.
Going back to the train heist scene in Fast 5, even though the stunt went wrong, the team didn't opt to start over. They instead integrated it into the movie. It goes to show just how dedicated they are to taking risks. Talk about turning lemons into lemonade. And that's not all. Volk Weiss also uncovered the gripping story behind the on-the-fly invention in Too Fast, Too Furious. As a longtime fan of the franchise, it's pretty eye-opening to learn these facts. You never really realize just what goes into making these movies until you see the production side of things. The Fast and Furious franchise never shies away from a daring move, and that's what keeps fans on the edge of their seats with each new release. Sideways glances, high-speed thrills, and an improvised classic. That's what Brian Volk Weiss had to say about this next scene. He said that he will never forget the scene in the movie where Paul Walker and Eva Mendes were racing down the street. Their eyes were locked on each other instead of the road ahead. It's intense to watch them speeding down a residential street while not paying attention to where they're going. And do you want to know the best part? It was completely improvised while filming that film. After all these years, the Fast and Furious franchise is reaching its climax in the next 2 films. But its spirit of adrenaline-fueled excitement and thrills will surely continue through potential spin-offs. Icons unearthed, Fast and Furious is the go-to destination for those looking to delve deeper into the behind-the-scenes action of this box office powerhouse. With this insider knowledge, any rewatch of the Fast and Furious films, including the iconic Fast 5, is sure to be a more rewarding experience. Like the fact that Tommy Lee Jones was the original choice for Hobbs. The character of Luke Hobbs was introduced in Fast 5, and he's widely regarded as one of the best additions to the Fast and Furious franchise.
You're under arrest.
I don't feel like I'm under arrest. How about you, bro?
Some wannabe tough guy prick who beat a man half to death with a socket wrench. Yeah, real tough.
You're a long way from home.
But not many fans know that the character was initially written for Tommy Lee Jones. One can't help but wonder what would have happened if Jones had played the role. Would the films have taken a more serious turn? Given Jones's reputation for playing stoic characters, it's possible. On the other hand, Jones has been known for his serious demeanor, and even once referred to Jim Carrey as a buffoon on the set of Batman Forever. This raises the question of whether he would have been a good fit for the Fast and Furious franchise. After all, it's all about family, right? But that's not the only only interesting thing about the franchise's production. There's also the fact that the shift from street racing to heist films was a conscious decision. The Fast and Furious franchise initially revolved around street racing, but its lack of success led the creators to switch to heist film. Fans view this change as a major turning point and a wise decision, as it resulted in much more favorable reactions from critics and huge box office earnings. Street racing was still incorporated in later films, but only in selected scenes. I think it was a bold move to change the direction of the films, but I have to say, it really paid off. The heist films have added a new level of excitement and suspense, making them even more thrilling to watch. The fact that street racing is still present just adds to the overall appeal of the franchise. To be honest, I couldn't imagine the Fast and Furious films without the high-speed chases and heart-pumping action. And for a while, Tyrese Gibson had his doubts too. In a behind-the-scenes interview, Gibson expressed his initial doubts about the Fast 5 movie. He questioned how the returning characters could be brought together in a way that both made sense and was enjoyable for audiences. But the writer Chris Morgan successfully managed to bring together all the characters from previous movies, despite the fact that they didn't initially know each other. Through the film, the characters' relationship developed, and they eventually became friends. And let me reveal one more secret here. The film was actually shot in Puerto Rico instead of Rio de Janeiro. The film revolves around a daring heist in the bustling city of Rio de Janeiro, and the original plan did actually include shooting the movie in Rio to add that bit of extra realism. But the Puerto Rican government offered the studio more favorable tax incentive. This led to the movie being filmed in Puerto Rico instead and represented as Rio in the film. But what's even more intriguing is the fact that this change in location actually saved the studio more than $11 million. It's fascinating to see how a small change like filming location can have such a big impact on production costs. I can't help but think that this was probably a great call in the end. Plus, it wouldn't be right to end this video without mentioning this epic behind-the-scenes fact concerning an absolute legend. Yep, I'm talking about how Paul Walker did his own stunts. This franchise is all about big, bold, and over-the-top action scenes, and they definitely deliver in that department. But let's be real, some of that stuff just couldn't happen in real life. That's where CGI comes in. The filmmakers use computer graphics to add a level of realism and make these scenes even more epic. Brian O'Connor's jump from a train to a speeding car is the epitome of cool, and the scene where he's leaping across Rio's rooftops, that's just pure excitement. But what really takes the cake are the stunts performed by the late Paul Walker. He starred in Too Fast, Too Furious, and let me tell you, he was no stranger to performing death-defying stunts. Paul even did a lot of them himself, with the help of a stunt double to make them even more impressive. One especially jaw-dropping moment was when he jumped 30 feet from a building and landed on a safety mat like it was a walk in the park. Imagine that! Anyway, what are your thoughts on Fast 5 literally changing the script due to an on-set accident? See you in the next one!